you ever met a guy, had amazing chemistry, great laughs, but somewhere between texting and tacos, the spark fizzled out. We've all been there. What if I told you that it's not about being hotter, funnier, or more mysterious? Sometimes it's just about saying the right thing at the right moment. Today, I'm going to share 3 phrases that are like emotional kryptonite for men in the best way possible. These aren't tricks. These are tiny truths that make you unforgettable. Ready? Men want to be seen, not just for their looks or success, but for how their mind works. When you say this, you're not just complimenting his intelligence, you're validating his essence. It shows you're tuned in to his deeper self. It tells him, you're not just hot. You're interesting. I value your insight. This is one of the most powerful things you can say to a man. It's not about physical protection. It's emotional safety. Every guy wants to be the reason you relax, the person you trust. When you tell him this, he doesn't just feel masculine, he feels meaningful. Validation hits different when it's earned. When a man hears this from a woman he admires, it fuels him. It's like gasoline on ambition. It means you're paying attention to his growth, not just his grind. It's not flattery, it's recognition. Let's get one thing straight. Attraction gets his attention, but emotional validation earns his devotion. While we often hear about how men are visual creatures, and yes, physical chemistry is real, that's only scratching the surface. Once that initial spark fades, what keeps a man emotionally invested is feeling like he's valued beyond his appearance, paycheck, or social status. Just like women, men long to feel accepted and appreciated for who they are at their core, not just for what they can do for someone. We often forget that men are raised in a culture where emotional expression is discouraged. They're taught to be strong, stoic, and man up. So when a woman sees past the surface and genuinely acknowledges his inner world, his fears, passions, or even the way his mind works, it disarms him. It gives him something he rarely experiences, emotional safety. And when he finds that in a woman, it's magnetic. It tells him, you don't have to perform for me. I see you. This kind of validation doesn't come from flattery or ego stroking. It comes from tuning into his unique traits and appreciating the small details he might not even realize you've noticed. Maybe it's how thoughtfully he solves a problem, how passionate he is about a goal, or how he handles a tough situation with grace. When you speak to those things, his character, his resilience, his mind, you're telling him who you are matters to me. That's not just attractive. That's unforgettable. And here's the part most people miss. Emotional validation builds trust. When a man feels emotionally safe with you, walls come down, vulnerability becomes possible. He starts opening up in ways he doesn't with most people. And that emotional opening, that's the beginning of real intimacy, not the fleeting kind, the lasting kind, the one he'll chase, commit to, and protect. When most people hear the word safe, they automatically think of physical safety, like someone who can protect you from danger. But emotional safety is a completely different level, and it's what truly connects two people in a meaningful relationship. When you say to a man, you make me feel safe, you're not just complimenting his ability to take care of you. You're telling him that his presence, his energy, And the way he shows up in your life allows you to let your guard down. That's rare. And rare things are valuable. For men, hearing this is powerful because most of them go through life feeling like they have to prove their worth through action, provide, perform, protect. But when you express that just being himself makes you feel at ease, he doesn't feel like he's constantly auditioning for your approval. Instead, he feels trusted. He feels needed in a meaningful way, not for what he does, but for how he makes you feel. That's a quiet kind of validation that hits deeper than praise or flattery ever could. What makes this phrase even more impactful is the kind of woman who says it. A confident, self-assured woman who communicates emotional safety isn't looking to be saved. She's simply honoring the emotional environment he creates for her. That acknowledgement tells a man, I don't need you to be perfect or powerful all the time. I value the space we share. It invites him to be emotionally present, not just strong or stoic. And when a man feels like he can let his guard down with you too, that's where true emotional intimacy begins. Most men rarely hear that they make someone feel safe because they're so busy trying to appear strong, in control, and unshakable. But beneath that armor, many of them are quietly asking, do I make a difference to someone? When you give him that answer, when you look him in the eyes and tell him he makes you feel calm, secure, and steady, it doesn't just boost his confidence. It gives him a sense of purpose in the relationship that's deeply emotional, not just functional. Few phrases light up a man's heart quite like, I'm really proud of you. On the surface, it sounds simple, but beneath it is a deep emotional charge. It's not about ego. It's about being seen. Men live in a world where they're constantly measured by output. How much they earn, what they achieve, how far they've come. So when the woman he admires looks at him, not for what he's achieved, but for the effort behind it, and says she's proud, it hits him on a level most people never reach. It says, I see the weight you carry, and I admire how you carry it. The magic of this phrase lies in when and how you say it, not just after a big win or a flashy success, but in the quieter moments, after he handles a tough conversation with maturity, stays committed to something he cares about, or makes progress even when no one else is clapping. That's when it really counts. When you recognize his quiet grit, his consistency, or his growth, you're not just validating his actions, you're honoring his character. That makes your words stick with him long after the moment has passed. Men are often expected to be self-motivated, to push forward with little emotional support. But even the strongest man has doubts. Even the most confident guy wonders if he's doing enough or if he's good enough. When you say, I'm really proud of you, it doesn't just reassure him, it uplifts him. It reminds him that his journey, with all its mess and effort, is meaningful to someone who truly matters to him. And that emotional boost isn't just comforting, it fuels him to keep growing, keep striving, and keep choosing you to share it with. It also creates a bond that feels like partnership, not performance. When your pride in him isn't dependent on external success, but grounded in who he's becoming, he stops feeling like he's being evaluated. He starts feeling like he's being supported. That shift, being appreciated for his evolution, not just his results, builds emotional loyalty. It tells him, I'm with you in the process. I'm in your corner no matter what. And that more than admiration or desire alone is what makes a man feel truly loved. In a world full of dating tactics, social media advice, and endless rulers about how to act around men, sincerity often gets overlooked. But the truth is, nothing disarms a man faster or draws him closer than authentic, heartfelt words. The phrases we've talked about aren't magic because they're clever. They're powerful because they're real. When a woman speaks from a place of truth with no hidden agenda, a man can feel that. And it sets her apart in a world where so many interactions feel filtered, forced, or rehearsed. Genuine connection doesn't come from trying to win someone or follow a script. It comes from vulnerability. And vulnerability is risky. It's you saying, this is how I feel, whether or not you say it back. But that very risk is what makes it magnetic. When a woman tells a man she's proud of him or that he makes her feel safe without expecting a perfect response or some kind of payoff, it builds trust. He starts to see that she's not playing a part, she's being herself. And that honesty gives him permission to do the same. What's important to understand is that men are incredibly perceptive when it comes to emotional motives. Even if they don't always have the words for it, a man can tell the difference between a woman who's trying to manipulate his feelings and one who's offering her heart openly. When sincerity leads the way, the energy is different. It's not needy. It's not performative. It's calm, confident, and grounded. And that kind of energy is irresistibly attractive because it creates a safe emotional space, not just for him, but for both of you. These phrases work not because they're some secret formula, but because they tap into emotional truths we all crave to hear, especially when they're said with presence and intention. You don't need to say them perfectly. What matters is that you mean them. A single sincere moment can outshine 100 rehearsed lines. Because when a man feels that what you're saying is the honest reflection of what's in your heart, he starts listening with his heart too. And that's when real emotional intimacy begins to take shape. So many women have been taught that if you want to keep a man interested, you have to be mysterious, hold back, play it cool, be a little unavailable. And while that might spark curiosity, in the short term, it rarely builds the kind of deep emotional connection that lasts. Why? Because mystery can be intriguing, but authenticity is magnetic. A man might chase the unknown for a while, but he stays with the woman who feels real, someone who communicates with clarity, not confusion, someone who doesn't make him guess how she feels, because she knows who she is. Authentic communication isn't about oversharing or being emotionally raw 24/7. It's about being honest in a way that is grounded, clear, and self-respecting. When you express your feelings without trying to manipulate an outcome, you build emotional trust. A man doesn't feel like he's navigating a maze of mixed signals. He feels like he's in a relationship with someone who knows what she wants, values honesty, and can communicate without drama. That's rare, and that's what makes it stand out in today's dating world. Playing games might get a reaction, but it often leaves both people feeling insecure and exhausted. When you say things you don't mean just to provoke a response, or when you pretend not to care to gain power, it creates emotional distance. A confident woman doesn't need to pretend she's unbothered because she knows the right man will respect her for being direct. When you're authentic, your words carry more weight. They're not coated in strategy. They come from a place of emotional maturity, and that kind of maturity invites a man to rise up and meet you there. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. A man falls harder when he feels emotionally safe with you, not emotionally confused. He doesn't need you to be mysterious. He needs to know that the version of you he's falling for is real. When you express affection, respect, admiration, or even disappointment with calm, honest intention, it deepens the connection. It shows him that you're not interested in short-term validation. You're interested in something real. And that level of authenticity doesn't just attract the right kind of man, it keeps him. Falling for someone is easy. It can happen in a glance, over a shared joke, or through the buzz of early chemistry. But staying in love, choosing someone every day, that takes more. It takes emotional connection, trust, and depth. When a man feels truly seen by you, not just admired for what he does, but understood for who he is, that creates a bond that stands the test of time. It tells him he's not just wanted for the version he presents to the world, but for the parts he usually hides. And that kind of acceptance isn't just rare, it's unforgettable. Feeling safe is another layer that deepens that connection. For men, emotional safety is often the most unfamiliar yet most powerful experience in a relationship. When he knows he can be vulnerable with you without being judged or belittled. When he feels he can speak his truth, express his fears, or show his softer side, that's when the walls start to fall. That safety becomes a home, a place where he doesn't need to be on all the time. And once a man finds that kind of space, he'll fight to protect it, because emotional safety, once felt, becomes essential. But being seen and safe isn't enough on its own. A man also wants to feel celebrated, not worshipped or put on a pedestal, but recognized, appreciated, and supported in a way that energizes him. When you cheer him on, acknowledge his growth, and express pride in his efforts, not just outcomes, you ignite a sense of purpose in the relationship. You become someone who not only sees his value, but reflects it back to him. That's powerful. That's the kind of emotional fuel that inspires long-term devotion. This trifecta, being seen, feeling safe, and being celebrated, creates an emotional experience that's incredibly grounding for a man. It quiets his need to search elsewhere for validation or escape. It roots him in the relationship because he's not just loved, he's understood, respected, and inspired. When he feels those three things with you, he's not wondering who else is out there. He's thinking, how do I make this woman feel just as safe, seen, and celebrated in return? And that's the shift from attraction to commitment. So if you're wondering what makes a man not just fall for you, but stay, it's not about the chase, the mystery, or the perfect timing. It's about connection. It's in the words you choose, the honesty you bring, and the way you make him feel when he's around you. When a man feels truly seen for who he is, safe enough to be real, and celebrated for his growth, not just his wins, he doesn't run. He roots himself in that connection. You don't need to play small, stay quiet, or hold back to keep a man interested. The right one will lean in, not pull away, when he feels the power of your presence and the sincerity in your words. So use your voice, not to impress, but to connect. Say what you mean, let him feel it. Because when your words come from a place of truth, they don't just touch his ears, they stay in his heart. And that's where love really begins.